All right, guys, I'll give it one more minute. All righty, we have a nice number. Super. I'll get started then. Welcome, guys. Thank you to everyone who's joining us and still coming in. This is our first webinar of this year's sessions with Ample Market. So thank you very much for joining us. My name's Lottie. I'm from the marketing team, but I'm just going to be drifting in and out. More importantly, I'd like to introduce you to our two fantastic speakers for today. We're really delighted to have Mafalda from our partner network. She's a seasoned sales manager, currently building out the BD processes over at UpCloud. So she knows firsthand the difficulty of growing those operations from scratch. She's been around the block and done it all before, from SMBs, startups, enterprise teams. She's recently finished a book, which is coming out very shortly, so keep an eye out for
Portuguese speakers.
Portuguese speakers for now. And she's hosted a couple of awesome podcasts, which I really recommend you go check out if you get time. Then on our moody side karaoke, we have Nikita. Nikita's come up through the likes of Deal and Bright sales teams, super high performer. He's now running his own consultancy agency over at Perform 8. Helping SMBs with their scaling processes. And he's very recently just joined the Full and Rich team as well. We hope it's going well so far. And we're really excited to have these guys together. They're a great team. Before we get started, just a couple of admin things. I'm keeping the chat open. We want this to be really interactive and an interesting session for you. So please feel free to comment, drop your questions as we go along. We do have a Q&A session at the end where we'll sit back and review everything. So please don't panic if we pass over your questions. We will come back to them. And there's also going to be a few questions dropped in there for you guys to answer as well, some polls and just some things to get your input in. We want this to be a kind of two-way conversation. So I hope you enjoy it. And final piece of admin, this is being recorded and it will go out to you guys after the session. So look forward to that. Anyway, enough from me. We will get started on our presentation on productivity. So to start with, I want to ask you guys, Nikita and Mafalda, what are the biggest pitfalls that you see sales teams making at the moment? Especially those that haven't gone into AI, and what are the areas that managers tend to be surprised by most when they actually look into it? Guys, I'm going to open the first poll as well in the chat, so feel free to get interactive. Over to you guys.
Mafalda, you wanna ladies first.
Okay, all right, ladies first. There you go. So yeah, there are a lot of time wasters for every department, but for sales, I would start with useless meetings, right? So there are companies they love to put salespeople in meetings that don't bring any value and could be an email. So that's highly disruptive and not really worth it most of the times. So this is I would say a great one, but going back to where also AI can help, I would say that list building and researching are usually two tasks, and also clean up the CRM that really takes a lot of time from sales teams. Nikita, do you have more on to add to these ones?
Yeah, definitely. So in my opinion, everything that you do besides being on a call with a client is kind of a waste of time, right? But some of it is inevitable, so you have to do some of the tasks. But if I look at the most draining tasks, I think it's analyzing the data, especially if you're still searching for your ICP, you don't know who you're selling to and why. Is basically getting that picture together is something that AI can be really helpful, and outreach in particular, because it came from marketing that we can A/B test different segments, we can A/B test different messaging, and to do it all manually, I think that's just dreadful. And it's so good that we have tools like Ample Market where you can actually have a look at the data, make really quick decisions, and overall your team is basically generating data for a sales leader to make very smart decisions.
Yep.
Excellent, guys. What I'm hearing a lot of is there's this kind of division between quality and quantity of output, right? And managers knowing how to direct their teams to the right places at the right times and knowing how to identify those. So what kind of pointers do you give to managers who, what should they be looking at? What kind of metrics should they be looking at? And how should they address this issue? And how can AI help in that?
You can go first, Nikita, this time.
Thank you. So basically, what I think, and since I'm working mostly like SMBs and I don't have a big team that I manage, I mostly look at how much time I spend in the calls and try to increase it as much as possible, right? So only when we are talking to the customer, we're trying to close it, or we're making a discovery, this is the quality time that actually can be translated into the numbers, right? So everything from filling out CRM, I'll try to automate it. Everything from writing different sequences and kind of copy is something that makes my life much easier. And so yeah, I would just focus on how much time you spend with the client and minimize everything else.
Yeah. Building on that, I'm head of business development, so I'm managing business development reps. So and I always tell them your job is to book qualified meetings, right? So and as Nikita said, anything that doesn't contribute to that, it's a waste of time. And so what usually in terms of metrics you should look for is how many activities per account are you performing in order to get the meeting booked, right? So actually, for example, my top performer at the moment is the person with the least activities, right? He's a fantastic cold caller. He's very good in understanding the pain of each person he speaks with, for example. So I don't, on the other day, for example, he said, "You must hate me for this, but I take breaks every hour." And I'm like, whatever works for you, you're still the top performer. So no, if you book all of your meetings in the first hour of your week and you do nothing the rest of the week, I don't really care. I care about results. And if it's working for you, it's working for you. So managers should be really looking at how many activities and how much time each BDR is using to book a meeting with the account. And when the percentages is very low, so it's, I don't know, 1% or something like that, you should really be looking into things like, are we going after the right ICP? Does our messaging resonate, and are we leveraging the channels? And these are more important that, oh, my team did 200 calls this week, I'm super happy. I'm like, yeah, but if nothing turned out, this is just dials, right?
Yeah, and there's a pattern as well that I saw in very different companies. So the top sales guys usually are the worst in filling out the CRM. So what it means, they spend less time on admin and they spend more time in calling, right? And again, just being busy and just having calls or sending out emails and using this kind of spray and pray tactics doesn't really work that well. As Mafalda pointed out, that you have to spend time not with just any client or be reaching out to any client, but the ones that has the biggest probability to convert to a user to a client, right? And this is bringing us back to the same point of data, right? So the much data we have, the better we understand what kind of customer we should reach out to and which language and copy we should use. So this is again kind of something that AI can help with in terms of analyzing and putting some sequences together.
Yep. And also you mentioned here on this slide, you have on the first point, focus on quality leads over quantity. So, my company, BDRs are not paid on meetings booked or meetings that happened, but rather just on opportunities. It's debatable, okay? I'm not saying that I agree 100% with these, but it's true that most of the meetings that they book, they usually convert into something because they know if, they can book 10, if there is nothing there, they still don't get paid. Again, I'm not defending 100% these. I still think it should be both, because they cannot control everything. And when you cannot control everything, it's also unfair that you just paid on that. So again, I'm not 100% by this, but it's a way to actually filter quality. And it's true that most of the meetings we book are with decision makers and are really good because we don't get paid otherwise.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And one thing also to add is if we talk about AI, it's good for analyzing data, right? But it's also good for gathering data. So this is where intent signals are coming into play. I think at some point we will have some statistics in our slides. Basically, knowing or letting AI gather data to understand when and why we're reaching out can increase your efficiency like multiple times, right? So again, instead of like spray and pray tactics, we add a layer of understanding who we are talking, we want to talk to, and another layer is why and when, right? So combining this, and it's kind of like coming from maybe digital marketing where we fix the conversion rates of each step a bit.
Yeah.
So in the end, we will have a golden funnel, let's say, that we know works well.
Yeah, 100%. And also, and from a manager's perspective, this is your job as a manager, right? Because you as a manager, your team is executing or should be executing a strategy, right? You shouldn't leave your team deciding which ICP or which messaging, or it's your responsibility to write the cadences for them as well, so they know what goods look like. It doesn't mean that they have to follow it rigidly by any means. I'm just saying that you have to show what good looks like. You need to enable them understand this is our CP, this is why we are targeting these companies, this is usually why they work with us. And you need to do this homework as a manager. You need to talk to your customers, you need to write a playbook, you need to do that, because the time that your SDRs or BDRs are spending wondering these, it's time they're not executing, or they are talking to the wrong people or with the wrong messaging. It's
Absolutely.
not their job, it's the manager's job.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I think we're coming on to it, some kind of like practical examples. And we've got on the slides just an example from an ample market user of some of the impact he's seen. I'm wondering if you can each kind of dive into a story or situation, either from your own team or a client, where you've seen kind of the impact of AI in transforming sales productivity and performance. What goes into the AI discovery process, and how do you measure that success?
Yeah, I can start. So I've been using Apple Market way back. So at deal time, so our whole team was using Apple Market even before you had the Duo functionality. So we didn't have like any AI, it's just automation and sequences, etc. But when I started my consulting business, Duo came out, and I was eager to try it. And obviously, I was amazed how easy at some point sales can be, because my ICP were companies that are expanding their sales team. So I put a trigger in place where I get a notification every time some company is looking for BDRs or SDRs. So it means that they are expanding their sales team. They want to increase capacity, and whenever I get a trigger, I just reach out to them. I know why I'm reaching out. I know who to reach out to, because obviously it's either a commercial director or CEO, depends on the size of the company. So, and this kind of, brings down a lot of defenses, because, everyone is reaching out. But if you know why, you're kind of like standing out in that sense. So yeah, timing, intent, and the right person, everything was in place. And I think during my during my first month or first week, I did 17 meetings just thanks to that. Right. So yeah, name a business that has a really good start like this without AI. I don't think it's possible. But just with having the right intent signals and right data gathered by Duo, that was the reality.
Yeah. So absolutely same thing. I think Duo is fantastic for that because the research time it goes down very very quickly, and you don't have to balance quantity and quality anymore because you can have both. But also, just so I don't repeat the same thing, and I also mention other ways I use AI. So I think AI is great to accelerate the knowledge about the persona in the industry. So, for example, when I started at UpCloud, I went to interview a lot of customers, and then I put the transcript on ChatGPT, for example, and I say, which triggers do you see from here? And then with these triggers, I can add to Ample Market and mention which triggers are relevant. So I also have the relevant triggers, right? So AI helps me really analyze the data and get knowledge on the persona. I even mention, and I can even use AI as a consultant, like, hey, this is a transcript. Which messaging do you think this person will respond to? Which language should I avoid on my outreach? So I can accelerate my knowledge about the persona like never before. So this is one of the things. Then what Nikita mentioned, you have the triggers now. You've done the AI does the account research. You are the one reaching out. And then another thing that my team uses with AI that's amazing, and our connected rates went from 4% to 27% was power dials. So they use a power dial. They are still the ones who call. Obviously, we shouldn't replace the best part of sales, which is speaking to our actual prospects. But they use a power dial so they can dial faster, so they go through a call faster, so they can speak to more people in the same hour than before, which also accelerates the knowledge in the persona. So when they get a rejection, they understand why is that, why is the rejection, and I can refine my messaging based on these constructive rejections. So AI allows you to book more meetings, but also to accelerate the learning curve about the messaging, what resonates, and about your persona, and that's gold in sales.
I love that. And it's kind of this cumulative effect of plugging AI into all the process. It all adds up, and that's what your competitors aren't going to be doing, any one of these, let alone all of it together. Mafalda, you gave us a couple of examples of features, but I'm wondering if there are any other AI features that you guys feel like you or your team couldn't live without now, that you'd like to mention. And guys, I'm inviting the rest of you, if there were one thing that you could snap your fingers, never have to do again manually, what would it be?
Mafalda, do you want to say it together?
Yes, let's do it. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Filling out CRM.
Filling out CRM.
It's. I think one thing is, it guides your focus away as the one thing, but another thing is, if we talk about AI, it uses data to make assumptions and kind of like give you a good picture of high level picture of how it is to make decisions. So if you fill out the CRM manually, there is a room for an error. You can forget something that is very crucial about this client. You can mix something up. You can forget to fill it up. So there's a lot of room for an error, and that's why all of the kind of like knowledge base of your company, of your sales team, can be gone, right? Or can be compromised in that sense. So letting AI fill out your CRM is, first of all, very efficient in terms of time and very accurate, right?
Exactly,
So
accuracy.
that's absolutely the number one thing I would definitely do if I would be a business and growing my sales team from the scratch. It's much easier to do. Of course, it's much harder to do when you have an established sales team already, but definitely it will be worth the hustle, because again, you can use this data to make assumptions, to find patterns in your kind of like sales track. So if you see a lot of closed lost deals, you can feed it into AI, asking like, hey, why do you think those deals were lost, and what we can change about that? Is it wording? Is it positioning? Is it pricing? So
it's a
again,
feature that's missing, right? So it's also a feedback to the product team, right? That sometimes we forget to pass on. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I'm the lazy CRM fill out guy, where I really forget some crucial information about why we lost this client. Because if we put close won, we always remember why we won. But if we close lost it, we often are
it's a defense mechanism,
damaged. Yeah, emotionally damaged. So we are just like close it and move it. But it's actually crucial information for your sales leader to make some decisions on.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a question from the chat asking to describe the power dial. I think I'll just take that one now while we're still on the subject. So basically, when you pick up the phone, usually you have to click on one prospect, waiting for the person to pick up the phone or not, and then another one. With a power dial, you can dial, let's say, 10 people at the same time until one picks up the phone and the others stop immediately. Obviously, you won't be speaking to two people at the same time. So so you have for example, how I do it in my company. So I make sure that my BDRs are also focused. I don't have to research each person, otherwise that would be insane. What I do is we do a calling block for example, an industry, health tech, right? So health tech is relevant for us. We know what are usually the challenges for that industry specific and what are our solutions. So no matter who picks up, it's always more or less the same kind of challenges, or at least they know what to ask to see if there is any opportunity there, so they don't have to learn and to research every customer. Also, that's usually a second or third point on the sequence, so they already send a personalized email, so they can also go back into seconds and check what they wrote to the person. But that's usually how the power dial works. I hope that answered the question.
I'm just adding to the chat as well, as somebody's asked if it's available in Ample Market. We have a brand new Salesfinity native integration that's available. You'll need a Salesfinity account, but you can access that through your account settings, get signed up with Salesfinity, and it works like a breeze. Our SDRs are loving it for cold calling. The Salesfinity interface is beautiful. Mafalda, I think your team uses it as well, right? So highly recommend.
I love it. My BDRs, they were like, because the numbers spoke for themselves, from 4% to 27% connected rate. It's huge, right?
Man, that speaks, yeah. So moving on to these kind of AI features, we're speaking about AI with Duo Copilot. If you reckon these kind of tools are becoming more and more indispensable to sales teams, how do you envisage the sales rep role evolving, and what does that mean for team managers? How do managers' roles need to evolve to enable reps to get the most out of these tools?
Yeah, I think, as Mafalda pointed out as well, that managers have to look at the data, look at what AI kind of like gathered, and to make some adjustments in the sales strategy for the whole team to just take more actions. And when it comes to BDRs and SDRs, how their role is changing is we are still the ones who are kind of like writing the prompts and kind of like having the thought work about, okay, what I can do or what I can analyze, what I can change and use AI for that. So as simple as what kind of trigger should I create in AI Copilot that would make the leads that appear in my dashboard relevant or to our product, to our solution, right? Because it's much better to wake up, open up your Ample Market account, for example, and you see like 20, 30 leads ready to be contacted, and you know why, rather than just, waking up, open up LinkedIn and like, okay, I have a list of 10,000 potential customers. I don't know if it is the right timing. I don't know if it's the right solution for them, or is it the right person? Let's just go, right? So it's a totally different picture for SDRs. And it goes more to, just being an entry-level role to more of a, strategic role. So you have to understand the patterns. You have to understand, what are you looking for. So obviously this is going to be a next level, and it's not the same SDR role as it was 10 years ago.
I agree. I don't think BDR is junior at all. You need to convince a CTO to spend 30 minutes with you at least. I mean, if that's junior, I mean, okay, sure. But I agree with you. And I think it's very funny when people ask me in panel talks or just my opinion, oh, do you think that AI will replace you or the sales team? It's like, I don't know about you, but me and everyone I know in the industry is complaining about having too much to do and not having time to do what matters. So you either don't have time to do what matters and you welcome AI, or you have a lot of time in your hands and you might feel threatened, but you cannot have both. Right? So so if you feel swamped all the time, which I believe you do, because I do, my team does, I think AI can be very helpful. But the other thing that's super important is AI the answer to your specific problem? Not, and I'm saying, and I know this webinar is about using AI, but like just taking a step back, I've seen, because in my previous company, we were selling also an AI tool for sales. And I remember being on discovery calls where the person's like, does your tool have AI? Like, what do you mean by AI? I don't know, AI, just to have it. And it's like, ask yourself, which problem are you trying to solve? Maybe the answer is not even a tool. Maybe it's a process. Maybe it's enablement. Maybe it's interviewing your customers. Maybe it's a tool and maybe it's AI. But before you jump into tools, just to understand which problem I'm trying to solve, and if AI can be, something helpful. And the answer might be yes, but I really recommend taking a step back. And once you figure it out that AI is actually what you're looking for, so for example, again, with Duo, right? So if your SDRs are spending a lot of time in account personalization and AI can help speed it up, cool, fantastic. So there is an AI for that. That is really good, which is ample market. Okay, but you as a manager, you need to do an enablement session with your team. You need to then you need to communicate, guys, this is how much time we spend on average every week. With these two, you can have 4 or 5 or 10 extra hours to cold call and get more results. This is how you use the tool. Let's have a refreshment next week on how to use the tool to see if there are any. So it's not only let's have AI. No, there is a process, and if well implemented, you will see your results skyrocketing. If not, and it's easy to blame tools as well. Oh, they promised me this and it's not working. Like, are you using it properly? Or this is this usually is the solution to the problem you had. So I really recommend you to do all of this process and implementing your AI tool properly.
Yeah, and sorry.
Please carry on.
Adding out to this topic is you can compare AI to internet, right? So there was a world before internet, right? And if your business didn't work well and you make a website, right, it will not fix that, right? So having a website or access to internet is not making a change. So you need to understand why you're making a website. Do you have traffic to that website? And does your product or service is good enough to keep those customers that you get with the internet? So the same thing is with AI. You can speed up and make things more efficient, but it's not a panacea for all the problems that you're having, right? So you need to really understand like why you're getting this functionality, and enablement definitely is something that the manager have to look into, because you can give your race team a Ferrari, but if they don't know how to switch gears, like they will not be the first in the finish line.
Yeah.
Excellent. You guys have kind of anticipated it. Mafalda, you touched on it. I want to kind of come at this from a slightly different angle. And, you know, a lot of people who are now, you know, bought into AI will admit that they were skeptics. And there is a lot of skepticism about, you know, is this just spray and pray in another form, which, you know, it could well be with some AI tools. How do you guys approach that question? What do you look for in AI tools that, you know, aren't, as you say, just tagging AI on the end? What do you look for that's going to bring real results and that, you know, you would recommend managers looking at investing in?
Yeah, just wrapping up what I said, really, first understanding where the problem is. How can it be solved, whether it's a tool or AI? If yes, if it's actually AI can help, then look for the best tool. And then, and then there are a lot of things you should look at, you know, certifications, GDPR, depending how compliant your company is, if it integrates with your other tools, yada, 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 because that's another thing. You can have a great tool. If it doesn't integrate with your actual tech stack, you're adding again hours to your sales team. So sometimes it's better to pay more for a tool that integrates seamless than going the cheap road and this does exactly what it is, and then suddenly they are even slower than without this tool. So really it's seamless integration with your actual tech stack, super duper important for your team's productivity. And again, I would say, as Nikita said, AI is like internet, or it's like a hammer, or it's a tool, right? You can use it the lazy way, the wrong way, or you can use it the smart way. I just say, please don't spray and pray. You're gonna hurt your domain. You're not gonna get anything out of it. And the only thing you're gonna have, it's like, oh, I sent 500 emails today. And again, that metric doesn't matter. What matters is meetings, opportunities, and revenue ultimately. So definitely, if I have to sum up, don't use AI or any tool in a lazy way.
And I want to add in terms of team adoption. So it's the same way. If we think about painters when photography came out, right? So there are a lot of them who said that, okay, photography is gonna take away our jobs. And there are others who said like, wow, what an amazing and efficient thing. We can do more pictures and more paintings with it. So there are the ones who adopt and progress and eventually win. And there are the ones that say, okay, no, this is something new. I will not try it until it's too late, right? So I think AI is not going anywhere, that's for sure. If it's right for your current situation, again, you have to understand which parts of the sales processes are currently lacking, and if this tool or this solution will improve that or not. So I think my concern is when companies are just getting the tool and hoping that it will solve all the problems, which isn't the case, right? You have to understand which part of the process and how you could fix with this tool, right? And
yeah. And I've
if it's
sorry, continue.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that if a lot of companies are concerned about the cost of the tools or whatever, so I always look at this that way. So if I invest this amount of money, this is the amount of actions that I could be additionally taking. What is the probability that I will close enough deals to justify the cost, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, for some small ticket size SMB companies, might be not worth to get a full stack product, whilst for other companies where your average ticket size is one client is $100,000, right? One sale justifies a lot of your tech stack cost. So this is something to think about when you're considering expanding your tech stack.
Yeah, and building on that, make sure the people who's going to use the tool are on board with it, exactly what you mentioned. And most of the tools nowadays, they have free trials. Use it. And I would say use free trials for two things: to see if your team is on board, because if they're not, you're going to spend money on a tool not well used, and then you're going to have to report to your CFO saying, why did you spend money in this tool that no one is using? You don't want to have this conversation. So better, get it off the way while you haven't bought it. So first, your team has to understand why we are buying, which problem you're trying to solve. Define the criteria. So usually when I have a free trial, the salesperson also asks you, what are the success criteria to adopt this tool? You should do the same with your team. So guys, this is what I want to achieve with this free trial, right? See if, usability, see if you like it, and see if we are achieving what we are aiming. So in the end of the week or the 2 weeks free trial, I want to know how many hours did you save, or how many meetings did you book extra? If the what are the KPIs that we are talking about? Are we saving time? Are we making money? And did we accomplish, or at least have a hint that we will accomplish once we start the usage? And then when you buy the tool, you have the buy-in. You have a case for your CFO as well, because I had to do that, right? I had to say, hey, my team is not connecting with anyone. How can I book team meetings if I cannot speak to my prospects? I need a solution here, right? And after the free trial with a power dial, and the connection rates went really high, my team was very motivated, and we booked more meetings. So there you go. You need to do this case for yourself to also save yourself from trouble in the future, and to also make sure that your reps use the tool, because you can have a fantastic tool if they're not used by the users, it's a waste of money.
Fantastic, guys. I think we've got time for one more question before we wrap up and get to the Q&A. Moving forward, big picture question. Where do you see AI helping productivity in the future? What do you think is next? What do you think are the big goals that still need to be conquered in sales? And we've touched on how the rep's role is going to evolve, but how else do you see the technology evolving? What would you like to see?
I think a lot of focus will be going towards the quality of data, right? Because obviously all the language models and AI in general is based on data, right? So right now we're using a lot of LinkedIn data to, understand where the person is working, what's the job experience, and kind of like we will expand the amount of data points we're collecting. I think that's crucial in terms of sales, and it's getting much more on the picture lately. And at some point I do believe it's kind of controversial, but we will roll back at some point to the place where we enjoy and we crave for face-to-face real meetings, because there will be too much maybe connections and discussions in the internet. So I believe in the future there will be more events. People will be more keen to, just meet, have a coffee, and do it the old school mode. But at the same time, all the heavy lifting and all the analyzing will be done by AI.
Yes to all of it. And I think a couple of points here. So AI and technology advances fast, but we human beings, we don't. That's why we still have like ChatGPT and the whole AI thing happened in 2023. It's 2025, and there's still a lot of people who don't use it, right? So this, yes, the technology goes fast, but not as fast as we think, because you're still wondering, because there are a lot of companies still not leveraging AI. So it won't be as fast as you think because of our nature. That's point number one. And point number two is exactly what Nikita mentioned. I think going back to basics will be the new vinyls, so we have Spotify and we have YouTube, and there are people collecting vinyls now, right? There was a surge in vinyl purchasing the past 2-3 years, and because AI can amplify the good, can also amplify the bad. So not us, but a lot of people will be sending really terrible outreach, or already are, with AI. Meaning that the really good ones will be the ones who stand out. So the ones and that's the path that you should aim for, because the market is already more competitive, more crowded, more noisy. So the way for you to stand out from the crowd is going back to the foundation and use AI in a smart way, not in a lazy way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great note to end on. Thank you, guys. We'll move on to a couple of questions. Guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and we will keep an eye on them. Firstly, I just actually want to pick up on something from that last poll we ran, which was about Nikita and Mafalda. I'm not sure if you have visibility about, biggest concerns of implementing AI. And, one of the biggest sticking points for people is their concern about its impact on personalization. I wonder if you can elaborate a little bit about your experience of that. Obviously you're getting the time saving with the automation, but how do you make sure that the value stays there? And like you say, you're not just doing really bad outbound amplified.
Yeah, I think it boils down to if you're being lazy and you use the most obvious kind of like personalization methods like first name and company name, nobody is falling for that anymore. And the same thing is, I think, raising funds and switching positions is also kind of getting old. So you have to actually dive deeper and get more data points that will actually have the person accept your connection request, right? So one of the things that I'm doing currently at Full and Rich, for example, we have, if we have any inbound lead, and I see that they created an account with us, and I see that several of their team members actually created an account with us, I would go to the VP of sales saying, hey, I see that your reps are creating accounts with us. It seems that maybe what we offer is relevant at the moment. Just let me know if that's the case. If not, just happy to connect, right? So at first, I think being very easy on the approach. So you're just connecting because you're building a network, right? And second of all, being really smart about how you personalize, right? So don't be lazy, do your research. That's the thing that AI will not do on your behalf, like decide what is the best way of personalization, but gathering information for personalization, and you're pulling the trigger in terms of, okay, it seems that this would be the right angle to approach is key, right? So you have the access, you have the data, but you still need to decide on which tactics are you going to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like, if you're lazy, you don't you don't change your personality because something is in the market. So even before AI was a thing, when we just had the old sequencing, right? Most people, or the people who didn't care about their job, but they were already lazy, they would already blast emails anyway with no personalization. So it's not now that I'm receiving more bad emails, maybe a bit more in terms of quantity, but I always received bad outreach since forever. So since way before ChatGPT was a thing. So I think the problem is not the tool, is the people using it. And again, if you hire well and you train your team well, you won't have that issue. Don't blame the tools. Take the responsibility.
Oh, we're going to press a little bit more. We've had a question saying you've mentioned being lazy a couple of times. Can you elaborate a little bit more on this? What is being lazy with AI? What isn't being lazy in AI? How do you avoid that?
I can give a short answer. It's really using as Nikita mentioned, I just same personalization, like first name and company with no other contacts there. Also, so that's the first layer of laziness, or sending the same email. Okay, it's a vertical. Usually CFOs, they are concerned about money. Oh, really? So we can help. But so this is the first layer. The second layer is now with AI, yes, we can have the triggers, and they come to us, so we can do a better research while being lazy. But then we don't talk about what does it mean, right? So me as a BDR, I have to understand, okay, I saw that your company is expanding. you as a CRO in 2025, you might have this issue due to that trigger. So if you don't do that, because usually that's critical thinking and you need that, not AI. If you don't do that, then you are in the second layer of laziness, right? That yes, you have AI giving you the trigger, but you haven't, connect the dots and make it, obvious to the person receiving your email.
Yeah. And yeah, the same. Like if you use data that's on the surface and everybody has this access to that, I think that's being lazy, right? If you see on the, like if you go to a person's LinkedIn and on a headline, it's like, hey, we raised money. And if you approach like, hey, I noticed you raised money, like everybody knows that, right? But maybe what others don't know is that, hey, yeah, you just switched companies. You were using that tool since I did the research that shows that you were using, let's say, HubSpot, right? And you're selling a CRM. So yeah, I've seen that you're been using HubSpot. Is it still the case? I was curious to like see if our CRM might be a better solution, right?
Yeah.
So kind of like you get few layers deeper to understand like what can resonate. And you can use also timing, like is it the end of like fiscal year for that particular company, because different companies have different like how do you call it, cycles, right? So and if you deep dive into their reports and saying like, okay, Samsung, I see that your fiscal year ends in April, and I see it's approaching. Like, what is your plan to make your new fiscal year a success? So this is something where people will how he knows that, right? So
Yeah.
it's not obvious on where did you get this information, especially if you offer sales services. They will be like, this guy knows something that we don't, or our like BDRs are not using. I should learn from this, right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of like sparking curiosity and having some kind of information laid out to them in a simple to understand way that will make them question like, oh, there might be something interesting.
Yeah. And on the funding news, read the funding news. Usually they say where they're going to use the money, right? They're like, yeah, we received these and our plan is to, I don't know, expand to the US. Great. We have another layer there. Probably if you need to expand to the US and you are talking to, I don't know, head of legal, they're probably super busy understanding the ins and outs from the legislation over there, right? So there you go. So that's what it means not being lazy. And it's more fun. I take it like a game, and it's like, oh, finally I can have fun doing my job at all times,
Yeah.
Detective.
Andrew has a question. Should we address that?
Yeah, if you guys are, I think you guys are well positioned to answer this as ample market power users. The question, just so everybody's aware, can you give more details about the key use cases for Duo AI Copilot from ample market and what the limitations are? These guys are both, power users of it, so I think you're in good.
Basically the long story short, the way I use Duo is really when I understand which triggers are interesting, then Duo every day, it's like a little like intern, right? That gives a, hey, you going after these companies and you are interested in knowing this and this trigger. Here, a new batch of companies that just got funded or using this technology or whatever is important for you. And you don't have to go after, every day you open your computer and you can just start prospecting right away. You know why, you know how, you know everything. So you don't have to spend time researching the trigger, researching the company, understanding what's going on. So you can open the computer and start prospecting right away with quality. So I would say these are the main use cases. Limitations, I don't know. I'm pretty happy about it.
Howard Island. We don't have our own, but we have a beautiful integration.
Yeah. Now, for me, the use case is I worked with a company that was looking for, it's quite a niche thing, but for companies that had their own vehicle fleet, right? So what I did with Duo is I chose the market. So for example, it was the Baltics, and anyone who is using a keyword fleet would pop up in my feed, right? And I also would choose like the company size and some other filters, and I wake up to like accounts who posted something on LinkedIn mentioning fleet, right? And you go through them, see what makes sense. I think the best part of that as well, that if you do it long enough, Duo will optimize yourself, like itself, that you can say either like this lead was good or this lead was bad, and it'll start to send you more and more relevant leads. So Mafalda, taking your analogy, like it's an intern, but it can later become a super efficient
Yes.
agent, right?
It learns, right?
It
So it learns
learns,
with the
yeah.
thing, yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is just one of the examples. And when I was speaking about, we have to be the one who gives prompts to the AI. So you have the functionality, you have the tools. You have to be the one who figures out, okay, I can create this kind of trigger that would make sense for approaching that particular person, right? So there are many use cases. The Ample Market team, I think, sets up the main triggers as a starter pack to give you some ideas. And later on, you can, again, this is another skill to learn, either for a manager or for an SDR. But yeah, this is how you make it work for yourself.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I don't think there are any more questions. I think we're about on time, so maybe we'll call it. Thank you, Nikita. Thank you, Mafalda, so much for being wonderful guests, wonderful speakers.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting. And if anyone in the chat has more questions, feel free to add me on LinkedIn and ask me directly if there is anything else you'd like to know. But super happy, and thank you so much for having me.